Sure, hope everybody is doing well. I apologize for being late. Dog walk overrun. Cheese and beans on toast took far too long to eat. Running around like a madman, but we're here. Game week 29 deadline live stream. As I speak, my chair starts to go lower. I feel like I'm in that Johnny English movie where it just starts to go. You probably tell I'm just starting to slowly sink a minute. Let me just readjust the old chair. There we are. Okay, so how is everyone doing? Bit of a mad morning. And it's worth noting I have not made my transfers yet, which is not an ideal position to be in at all. So hopefully we can come to some sort of conclusion in the next hour, because I am determined to not have my team in the same position it is in by come, let's say, midday, 12 o'clock. I need this team locked in. Otherwise, we are going to be stressing for far too long in the lead up to the deadline. So as always, if you're new around here, get yourself in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from in the world. Let me know what your transfer plans are, any questions. And of course, if you are going to enjoy the stream or you're enjoying it already, make sure you do drop a like. I cannot believe my chair is sinking once again. Give me 2 seconds, guys. What is going on? Let's see. I think I've put on a bit too much weight, to be honest with you. I think that's what's happened. I think I've had a bit too good of a few weeks, too many takeaways, and that's what's happened. So I think the way we're going to go about this, I'm going to answer the first few questions because I'm conscious I was late. You guys have been waiting around for a long time. I'll get through the questions that are on the screen right now. Then we'll go into my team, give you the different avenues that we might go down with my team. I know there was a lot of price changes last night. However, Isak fell in price, Trent fell in price, Salah fell in price. None of those actually fell in price for my selling price. So that's why I didn't make a move last night. The ones that rose in price were like Vardial, Milenkovic. I didn't really know if I wanted those players, and I didn't want to force myself to bring them in, hence why I didn't make a transfer last night. And we could be anything from buying Wood to buying Haaland and not having Wood to having all of them. So there's lots that could happen in this. So let me cover off the first few questions. So Taylor's asking, which one? Nwaneri in for Palmer. Okay. Nwaneri in is fine. I think he probably starts, but he came off early in the last game, remember, so you're not buying a player that has guaranteed minutes. Then defender moves to Doughty, Agbadu, I can never pronounce it, or Cresswell, to Minter, Sarabia, Monetzi in for Palmer, then Taylor, Bellegarde in for Palmer. All move also involve Cunha to Haaland. Okay, so basically you're trying to facilitate the move of doing Cunha to Haaland, and it looks like Nwaneri in for Palmer is your only avenue to do so. And if that is the case, you are selling Cunha, which is fantastic. Palmer is the one that I probably would sacrifice of the midfielders that you have available. Then I don't mind it. The one thing I would say is I would like to think you have a wild card available, because I don't think Nwaneri long term is a great pick, because the return of Saka is imminent, and we don't know how that is going to impact Nwaneri's minutes. If it was me, I'd play Nwaneri every single minute, and now I've got hiccups. But we have no idea what actually will happen. Gordon's asking, hello Nacho. Hello Gordon. This game week I'm transferring out Van Dijk, but shorter funds for Vardial. Who is the next best replacement? Aina, Kirkez, Aït-Nouri. Would appreciate your advice. Okay, so I discussed Aina in my previous video, and a lot of people made it clear that we do have Williams available at a cheaper price. Now, what I might quickly do is just get up some of the underlying numbers for the Nottingham Forest bunch, because we need to determine whether they are cheaper or not, and whether they are worthwhile bringing in. So let me just get that up for you here. See how quick that was, guys? See, I'm trying to make back lost time, and that was very quick of me. So here we have the defenders for Nottingham Forest, and we have got per 90 minutes, which I'll filter. These are the ones that we're really looking at right now. Let's get rid of the other ones. So per 90 for expected goals, Nico Williams at 0.12, and also the highest for expected assists at 0.06. So he looks really good. Milenkovic equal for expected goals, but that's kind of it. And then we got Murillo and Aina. So Aina, really, I wouldn't be buying now. I think he's good for the bonus points, if I'm not mistaken. Bonus per 90, yet 0.55. And his baseline is actually second that to Nico Williams. One thing that I do need to check, because I cannot lie to you, I don't know the exact minutes that Williams has had. I would say to you, if Williams has good minutes, which he literally plays every minute, I would have Williams over Aina every day of the week. If Aina gets a worldie like he sometimes does, then so be it. It is what it is with those situations. So I would have Williams over Aina. And the way I'd rank those right now probably would be Aït-Nouri third. I like Aït-Nouri, but I prefer Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest as a team. So I probably would rank those as Kerkez 1, Williams 2, Aït-Nouri 3. But the one thing that I would say is that if you are worried about the Nottingham Forest defence, because the ownership is always ridiculously high, if you get red arrows and you don't know why, it's probably because you don't own a Forest defender and they kept a clean sheet, like happened against Man City in the previous game week. So I would probably have Kerkez number 1. Unless you're scared of the Forest defence, then I would go Williams. JP saying, hi mate. Brighton look better than City and surely beat them. Haaland is not worth the money per point you get in return. When are you wildcarding? Yeah, so Haaland is literally the definition of a split in the community. We literally have half of the community advising people to go Haaland, the other half just absolutely bamboozled at the thought of bringing him in. Now, let's get him up in terms of his returns over the last few weeks. I believe that's this. Here we go. So, Erling Haaland. And I'm going to put a poll in a minute just to see what is going on in the chat. I'm going to put the first poll saying, will you own Haaland in game week 29? And I'm going to put yes, generally. Yes on FH, which is free hit. Let's type free hit. Let's not be lazy here. And then I'm going to put no. And let's see what the polls are looking like right now. Now, we're not blessed with thousands and thousands of people on this stream, but we got enough to get a bit of an idea on what is going on with the community on this stream. Now, when we look at Haaland's returns, I mean, the bloke has had 2 double-digit returns since game week 4. And in that time, games that we would deem similar to that of Brighton. Chelsea at home was one of those. Good result. Home against Newcastle, only got the 4-pointer. Home against West Ham, he got the business done. Home against Everton, didn't get anything there. Home against Man United, nothing. Home against Forest, a little bit. Nothing against Spurs. Only a 6-pointer against Southampton, remember. And a 2-pointer against Fulham. So the numbers also are not fantastic at all. Like, these are not numbers that I want to rip my team up for. And this is not a fixture that I believe to be incredible. It's this one. It's the game week 30 fixture at home against Leicester. And a lot of people are buying Erling Haaland to have a captaincy available. The big thing that is kind of frustrating me is that we're all speaking about how Liverpool are now out of all the competitions. And Liverpool have an equally decent fixture in game week 30 at home against Everton. Now, Everton are definitely tougher than that of Leicester. But would I be scared to put Salah's captaincy in game week 30? Definitely not. So I think it is a lot to bring in Erling Haaland, but I get the temptation to do so because you have a fantastic captain for this game week where others might not be that available. I see we got a super chat here from Scott. As always, Scott, thank you so much. Always a regular on these streams, and it is really generous for you to do the super chat. So you have Sells. Great fixtures this week. I'll leave the fixtures up for a bit of context right now for game week 29. When I read out these players, it might help out. So Sells away against Ipswich, great. Huijsen, Gabriel and Robinson alongside Milenkovic. Perfectly fine, I believe. I think Robinson's a bit of a nice differential this week. Embuemo, Clivert, Semenyo, Garnacho is a really nice differential. Would Haaland, took a -4 for Haaland, Isak and Salah benched. Any advice? Well, Scott, first and foremost, thank you for the super chat. You've already taken the -4, of course, so there isn't too much for me to advise. Now, I don't know who you sold. Let me know in the chat who you have sold. We cannot change it now. But the team itself looks great. You've got the coverage of Chris Wood. Yes, you've probably sold, I imagine, Palmer. But you have Salah and Isak in preparation for game week 30, which is great because those two players I still believe are fantastic for your teams. So I really like the team. Let me know who's on the bench. Of course, don't send another super chat. And let me know what your bench is looking like because I'd be interested to see who you have available for game week 30. But all in all, a really solid team. I love the Garnacho differential for this week. You're going to be one of few players that own him. And I do think he could come up clutch in this particular fixture. And the -4 for Erling Haaland, now that you've kept Isak and Salah, I do think is good. So you sold Trent, Palmer, and Strand Larsen. Yep, that is a -4 that I definitely can get behind. You're getting rid of Trent, where it looks like he could be out until, you know, April, May time by the sounds of things. Then you sold Palmer, who, look, Palmer is massively splitting opinion right now. The numbers are still really, really good. Like, look at the numbers here. Really good. Like, really good, consistent numbers. This is the numbers of the guy that everybody is ripping their team up for. 0.18, 1.41. Yeah, great numbers. Then we got 0.53, 0.39, 0.36. Then we got an okay number here, good number here. So, look, Palmer's numbers are really good, but I don't mind people selling him as long as you keep Mo Salah. I think that's really important. It's worth noting, I still haven't ruled out selling Mo Salah. I know it sounds crazy. Let me get back to some of the questions in a minute because I'm conscious I've jumped down with that super chat. Would I play Castagne or Cresswell? Well, I don't think West Ham necessarily keep a clean sheet. And with Spurs playing midweek in Europa League, I always back Spurs to score goals, but I probably would go for Castagne myself. Anton saying, who do you prefer, Nacho? Trent to Kirkes, Rodgers to Savinho, Cunha to Wood, or 2, Trent and Nico Williams, Rodgers to Bruno Fernandes, and Cunha to Evan Nielsen, or 3, Trent to Vardy, Rodgers to Bowen, Cunha to Evan Nielsen. Okay, so straight away, I think Savinho is one of those picks that he could get a 15-pointer in game week 30, or he doesn't play. And I just don't think it is worth the risk unless you are really chasing an upside pick. So I think, based on what you're putting out here, I do like option number 2. Regardless, the Cunha to Evan Nielsen move looks great, and you get Vardy out for game week 30. The only problem with Bruno Fernandes is while he looks good for game week 30, he then is away against Forest in game week 30, which is not ideal, not a great fixture. Bowen, on the other hand, is away against Wolves, that I do think is an okay fixture. The bonus is that you get Vardy out. I personally prefer the third option, but of course, for this week in isolation, I do expect option number 2 to outscore option number 3. I think Nico Williams outscores Vardy out, and I think Bruno Fernandes outscores Bowen. Sell Palmer for Bruno for -4, or is that putting too much faith in Man United having a good game? Matthew, I would not do that unless the move of doing Palmer down to Bruno facilitates a Haaland move. If I was looking at Palmer right now, I would not be thinking to myself, this guy needs to go for a -4. Yes, this is difficult, and it depends when you're planning to wildcard. But then game week 30, good fixture. Game week 31, not a bad fixture. Game week 32, great fixture. After that, I think he is expendable from game week 33 onwards. Now, with Bruno Fernandes, do I believe for a -4 just to do a sideways move is worthwhile? That is a phenomenal game. I can get behind it. Tricky. I mean, they have Man City's number right now, but still not the best fixture in the world. Tricky. Then I think the fixtures are not too bad afterwards. I wouldn't do it for a -4 unless it is part of a transfer combination. Sell Cunha and Eze to purchase Strand Larsen and Bruno, or instead Gibbs White. I mean, Eze could be fantastic for next week with that Southampton game. It depends on your strategy. I think Gibbs White is equal to that of Bruno Fernandes. I know that sounds crazy, but look, Gibbs White here. Now, the numbers are steady. I never look at Gibbs White and think that he has monster returns in him regularly, but they have Ipswich away and Man United at home in the next 2. I would say they're great fixtures, especially this one, and I would say I would prefer to have a Forest asset to that of a Man United one in game week 30. And on the flip side, yes, Bruno Fernandes has a good fixture, but we need to look at 2 game weeks here. And who would I rather have in this one, Bruno or Gibbs White? Am I being biased here by saying Gibbs White? Maybe I am being a bit, because Bruno is basically the heartbeat of this Man United team. But what I also want to remind people is direct free kick against Arsenal. The hat-trick midweek was 2 penalties. Now, buying penalty takers in itself opens up a door for points. That is just the purpose of owning penalty takers. It's great to have them because if you buy Gibbs White, you cannot sit there and go, oh, typical, my luck, Bruno scores a penalty and I didn't own him. That's your fault because you didn't buy a penalty taker. But what you do need to understand is that open play, Bruno Fernandes hasn't been phenomenal in terms of the underlying numbers, but he is carrying this Man United team right now on his shoulders. Okay, so I'm conscious we still have a lot of questions in here, but I also feel like I need to go through my team a minute because I'm losing my mind, not actually having it sorted. So we are going to come back to the questions, don't worry. I just want to go through my team and plans right now. And based on the poll, 67 votes, we got 42% saying yes, they will own Haaland, 9% saying they will on a free hit, and 49% saying no, they will not own Erling Haaland. So again, we need to remember, sometimes we are living in a bit of a bubble. It does seem like everybody is going to own Erling Haaland, but you can see here that it isn't necessarily going to be the case. I do think his ownership will be around 60% or so by the time we account for captaincy. Right now, he is owned by 36% of the game. I could see that being about 60%, maybe 50% with effective ownership with captaincy. So I need to go through my team a minute because, as I mentioned, I'm losing my marbles. I'm losing my mind right now. So it'd be awesome if you guys could throw in some opinions on my team as well. It'd be great. I'll put a poll in later to see what people are thinking in terms of the direction I go in. So there is basically 52,000 different directions this team can go. I wrote a couple out on my phone. Let me just get them up a minute so I'm not jibber-jabbering. Okay, so first up, the logical move. The absolute logical move is this. My team currently looks like this. Not fantastic. I've got 2 free transfers, 0.3 million in the bank. A normal person would look at this and say to themselves, Trent could be out for the next month. Cunha is suspended for, I believe, this and this. Maybe even this. So he's out. So it makes sense to do this. Cunha out to Christopher Wood. Trent out for literally any defender. But let's just put Vardio in just to spend all the cash available. And the team would then look like this. I would hold out hope that Vandenberg is going to feature. It sounds promising, but we'll see. And that'll be the team. That will be the team, and I'm covering Chris Wood and also with the captaincy, which is great. I've got a back 4. When I look at the fixtures down here, who am I missing? I think I've got the double defence. I'm not really that fussed of West Ham. I've got the best attacker in this fixture by far. No exposure in terms of the attack for Man City, but really it's Erling Haaland or nobody in that situation. Not fussed about this game. I've basically got everybody in this game. Don't really want a piece of Arsenal outside of, what's it called? Outside of Gabriel. And then we have got, of course, Fulham versus Spurs. I'm fine to avoid that. Leicester, Man United. The only one I would like in that is going to be Bruno Fernandes. And I just don't see an easy route to go there as of now. So really, if I wanted to just be very, very safe and really protect rank outside of everything else, I would just do this. I would just do something like this. Nico Williams in, or even someone like a Milenkovic because the money is available. And I really am then covering rank. And then in game week 30, we'd have 1 free transfer. Munoz would come back in for no doubt Vandenberg. Mo Salah comes in for Mikalenko, and Isak comes in for, I mean, it probably would be Vissa. And that would be the team. And I'll be pretty content with that. And I would have 1 transfer available in game week 30 with 2.7 million in the bank. Now, of course, it isn't as simple as that. Obviously, Mo Salah would be my captain here. Probably vice captain would be Isak, let's say. When we come down to the fixtures of game week 30, I think we need to remember that the moves that we're making in my team are going to be a bit more of a 2 game week perspective as opposed to 1. So yes, it's all well and good not having Haaland for game week 29. I don't think necessarily they win against Brighton. I think they probably do beat Brighton if I had to bet, but I don't think they're going to batter them. And then in game week 30, who am I missing? Well, again, nobody really has Arsenal attackers, so I'm not fussed about that. And I like Fulham as a team. Not really fussed about this game. I've got Forest defence against a Man United team who kind of rely on Bruno Fernandes, and I don't really care about not having Bruno Fernandes in that game. Bournemouth, I'm covered and I'm stacked. I could even make an argument to use one of my free transfers to bring in an Evan Nielsen. Brighton, again, I'd avoid that fixture. I wouldn't be able to get to Man City because the players available would be pretty hard to get to. I've got Isak. Crystal Palace would be a problem. No Palace outside of Munoz. Have Mo Salah for that game, Palmer for that game. So I think that looks really good, but with one free transfer, we could chase some upside. So for example, with 2.7 million in the bank, there's a few things we could do. I would not make a defensive transfer at all. We could chase some significant upside if we were to get early team news possibly. No, we won't get any team news regarding Man City, but if there was issues potentially with the likes of Semenyo and I just deemed him just somebody I didn't want in my team, I could look to sell him to anybody who's 8.4 million, who kind of gets me people like, I don't know, like, I don't know who it gets, but it gets somebody. The big one, the big upside is this. Vissa out, Mateta in, and if Semenyo blanks in game week 29, I know I'm just going to be ripping my hair out, and I could do something like this. Something like, even like this. Really exciting move for game week 30 that allows me to bring in Mateta for away against Southampton. Now again, I don't have any Man City coverage for the Leicester game, which is really, really going to punish me, I do believe. But also, am I that devastated with the team that I have? No, the team's still great that I have. And the luxury of even benching someone like an Mbeumo is crazy to think. So that is my current thought process. Just blocking out everything to do with Man City and just bringing in Nico Williams and Chris Wood and just doubling down on Nottingham Forest, or, as I said, being a bit braver and going for someone like a Vardial, who I don't think gets a clean sheet this week, but could be fantastic for this week. The issue then is it doesn't allow me to bring in Mateta. So I need to remember the impact of bringing in Vardial. It blocks me of that, and I would instead have a team like this, which is still perfectly fine, and I would have one free transfer available to kind of spice it up a little bit. But I think then my options are a bit more limited on the direction that I'd want to go in. One really interesting one, and I probably would argue is as good as Mateta possibly, would be Evan Nielsen. And then he could come in maybe just for Mbeumo, and I go all in on Bournemouth as a pick. That route allows me lots of different options. Now, let me quickly reset this to show you another direction. And this is going to be the Erling Haaland route. Okay, so for me to get Erling Haaland, it would look something like this. It would be Cunha out to Erling Haaland, Isak out to Evan Nielsen, and I am basically blanking Chris Wood, just a heads up. Team would look like this, but unfortunately we have got 4.1 million to sacrifice here, and it would take the shape of this. Morgan, Gibbs, White. Mikalenko comes in, Vandenberg comes in. Now, of course, once again, I am relying on the availability of Vandenberg, but the other team was also relying on the availability of him, so it is what it is. And the team would look like this. I would have Erling Haaland for a captaincy. It would be for a -4, if worth noting, so that isn't ideal. And then coming into game week 30, again, I'd have 0.2 million in the bank. This will be the team. The issue, I haven't addressed the Trent situation, but the blessing of this is that when Mo Salah comes back in for Vissa, inevitably, and Munoz comes in for Vandenberg, I then could just sell Trent in this game week and bring in someone like Vardial. And then the team would look like this. So for this week, I prioritise the players that I really do think bring me the upside, which is going to be bringing in Evan Nielsen, bringing in Erling Haaland, and bringing in someone like a Morgan Gibbs-White. And then I don't think Vardial is essential at all for game week 29. But game week 30, that is the week that I could look at it and think, actually, that's the week I want him. The problem, of course, no Chris Wood, which is a bit of a problem. So that is a bit of an issue, not having Chris Wood. But you can't have both. I either go for Chris Wood and everyone says, Nacho, you got to have Erling Haaland. Or I go Erling Haaland and everyone goes, Nacho, you got to have Chris Wood. So let me know your thoughts in the chat. I'll be super interested to know. But let's be honest, I got to lock in some moves ASAP. I do like this move for a -4. I do quite like it. It doesn't address the Trent situation, which is not ideal. Now, the third option is doing something like this. And just a heads up, you're not going to like this. It'll be something like this. Trent to Nico Williams. Cunha out to Haaland, and then 6.2 million to spend on a midfielder. Now, the problem is there ain't many good midfielders to go for at 6.2 million, which is a bit of a concern. I think it probably would be someone like an Elanga. And it would look something like this for a -4. The pros of this: I keep Isak, which is great, and I've gotten rid of Trent, which is also great. But I think the other team's more exciting. I think the other team is much more exciting than the one that I've put up on the screens here. It basically just means I get to keep Isak, doesn't it? Pretty much. So let me know in the chat, guys, which team do you prefer of the ones that I've just showed you? Let me know in the chat. I'll be really interested to know. I feel like defenders are just not really the route to go this week. I don't really think any upside is given in that situation. Let me put a quick poll. I can't really write it all out, to be honest with you, because there's just too much. Which would you choose? So we got TAA and Cunha to Williams and Wood. Or the second option is basically that, but doing, what was it? Haaland. Guys, forget what I'm saying. I can't put that poll in. It's far too much rambling. Let's go back to some of the questions and we'll decide on this team in a minute. George saying, similar team to myself, but I already have Wood in my team. Thoughts? Well, if Wood is Cunha in your situation, then you are in a much better spot to me. And hence why sometimes we got to accept that FPL is a little bit of a lucky game in the sense of nobody predicted Cunha getting suspended. He got suspended. The swing of having Wood and Cunha is just ridiculous this week. And it just is what it is. Like, people getting stressed about it. You can't control the outcome of things like this. So you be in a spot like this, if you're saying your team's similar to mine. And to be honest with you, if that was Chris Wood there, I'd be very jealous. But I would be then very tempted to maybe pull the trigger and do like a Erling Haaland move. I think I would be tempted to bring in Erling Haaland. Covered that one off. Can you see Palmer getting any more than 2 goals, 2 points, be honest? Probably not. No. I think while Chelsea don't have any runners in this team, so Palmer only has Neto. Literally, that's it. And Cole Palmer needs the opportunity to express himself. And when the game's nice and tight, he has his moments like he did against Spurs at the early on in the season. But he is better when the game gets stretched and he has the opportunity to arrive in the box. He has the opportunity to pick up the ball and play those passes. Chelsea right now, we're playing very slow. Don't have Madueke stretching the wings. We've got people like Sancho and we've got people like Neto. Neto's fine. Nkunku dropping short. It doesn't really work right now for Palmer. I do think when Jackson comes back and we get another runner in the team like Madueke, I think then Palmer just becomes a much better option. But I don't think it's a coincidence that his numbers have been really good. It's worth noting. But we also have to take into account the teams that he's played up against, Southampton and Leicester. I could get good numbers against those two teams. So I think once we get those components back in the Chelsea team, then we can say to ourselves he could be worth the money. But right now, he is not justifying that price point at all. Punting on Lindelof, then move into Munoz. Fair, but I don't know if Lindelof will play. Let me know. You might have a bit more information than myself. Heather, hope you're doing well. Hey, Nacho, thoughts on Mazraoui as a 1 week punt? Need one defender for 1 week. Have Aina, Huijsen, and Timber. Thanks. Yes, we have I think I was looking at an upside. I mean, Mazraoui could be in the equation. Would he be my first point of contact? Probably not. But you've already got, as you mentioned, Aina, and you've already got Huijsen. So you've kind of got coverage in the Forest and the Bournemouth defence. And when I take a look at the fixtures for this game week, when we take out those teams, the upside pick probably would be a wing back in that Man United team. And Mazraoui could be an option. So yes, I probably would say Mazraoui, especially if it's only a 1 week punt. I would not be looking beyond that at all. What's the team look like and what option did you pick? Pieter, I haven't sorted it yet. We are going to sort it hopefully in the next 10 minutes or so. Best midfielder under 6 million, Magnus saying, I think Nwaneri is good if you're thinking to yourself he is actually going to get guaranteed game time. Otherwise, I do think Alanga will cover you for the next 2 weeks perfectly fine. I must have a username is saying, sell Chalobah to Nico Williams, -4. Have Kirkes, Vardial, O'Shea, Munoz. Well, this week you could play Kirkes, Vardial, and I don't even know if O'Shea plays, but for a -4, I think that does cover you for the next 2 weeks, which is nice. The only situation is it's very much a 1 week move because then next week you've got Kirkes, Vardial and Munoz as your back three. And I really doubt you're going to require Nico Williams in a back four in game week 30 because there are too many good attacking fixtures. So for a -4, I don't love it. Let me know if O'Shea gets minutes. I don't know if he does. Maybe give me 30 for Haaland, but he is gonna blank against Brighton. Okay, I think he could definitely. Scott's saying benches Fabianski, Isak, Salah, O'Shea. Yeah, perfectly fine for that. What's your team looking like? Haven't covered that. Robinson in the last games, not a lot of points. Agree, Giovanni, not a lot of points. But this Spurs team did play midweek. I do think it is an okay fixture for Fulham. For 1 week punt, who is the best striker to bring in? I have Visser and Wood already and Isak on the bench. Okay, so look, as a 1 week punt, I do think Erling Haaland is good, but I would prefer him next week. If we are looking at the fixtures, where are the real fixtures outside of, as you mentioned, Visser and Wood? So Beto, I actually think is okay as a 1 week punt against West Ham. I do not mind that at all. Strand Larsen as a 1 week punt against Southampton once again. Don't think that should be sniffed at. The other one for me would be Evan Nielsen. So Beto, Evan Nielsen or Strand Larsen would be the three outside of Erling Haaland because of course that is just a different beast from a price point perspective. Boy in the autumn, hope you're doing well. Would Haaland or Bruno captain? I think if you're going to buy Haaland, I would put the captaincy on him. I think Wood would be third. Honestly, I think Bruno's more exciting. Haaland's more exciting. I think Chris Wood is quite a safe play that I just don't think you need to go for in that options that you have. So I'd probably go Haaland 1, Bruno 2, and then I would go Wood 3. Yusuf saying, when do I play the assistant managership in your opinion? Yusuf, I'm going to be honest. I'm not 100% sure because I've already used mine. And I'm going to be honest, quite biased recently. I haven't actually applied a lot of time to see when the assistant managership could be useful. I would recommend, I know FPL Harry still has his assistant managership available. He'll be a really good person to check out his content because you might be able to actually relate to his situation because he has the assistant managership. So I'd recommend that because he will give much better advice than myself with the chip. I do apologise. Should I take a -12 from -8 of Dango to Kluivert or just play Dango of -8? Rafa, yes, I would prefer you to have Kluivert, but for a -4 to go sideways from Dango to Kluivert when Dango could come on after 60 and play, no, keep Dango. Start Kluivert or Mbeumo, it would have to be Kluivert just with the home fixture. On penalties, I think that just edges it. Mbeumo's on penalties as well, and obviously I would like you to start both, but if I had to start one, it would be Kluivert. But again, you need to understand, you are taking a risk regardless benching either of those two players. And guys, just a quick reminder, the reason why we're on a later stream is because the deadline is a little bit later. So just a quick reminder, the deadline is 1:30 today. So we've still got an hour and a half until the deadline. I won't be going all the way up to the deadline because unfortunately I've got football, so I will be off later to do that, but obviously trying to cover off as much as possible. And as of right now, this is my bus team. It is not good, and I've covered off my different processes and decisions, and hopefully we'll come to a decision in a minute. I'm just trying to prioritize your questions before we get into my team. Should I captain Chris Wood or Bruno Fernandes? All comes down to your risk appetite. Play it safe, just go Chris Wood, perfectly fine. But Bruno does have that air of excitement about him if you were to captain. And I think if I was in that situation, I think I'll go Bruno and just really chase that Leicester fixture. Mito saying, hey man, use Harwood Bellis or take a -4 to swap him. Thinking wildcard 31. If I sell, I have 4.8 million. Well, look, Any Southampton defender is just absolutely terrible. And I haven't even looked at their defenders. So I'm not sure what happened here, but it looks like he is a consistent starter for them. I would just roll out Harwood Bellis. I just don't think many defenders justify a -4 this week. I really don't. Should I transfer in Bruno Fernandes or Bowen? KZ again, all depends on kind of what you prefer. West Ham, I would argue, have better fixtures. Everton at home and Everton away, Wolves away, or Man United have got Leicester away and Forest away. I actually think over a 2-game week period, they're very, very even fixtures. And if we were to get up just some numbers a minute, because that's kind of a comparison that I haven't even thought about before. Bruno Fernandes versus Jared Bowen. If we get the midfielders up, Bruno Fernandes and Bowen. Hopefully you can see this okay. So per 90 minutes, XG per 90, Bruno Fernandes 0.34. Slightly better than Bowen's, and he has slightly better expected assists. What I'm going to be really interested in, I don't know the answer of this, is going to be non-pen XG for Bruno Fernandes. Now, in terms of shots, again, very similar between the two. Bruno just leading the way. Let's take a look at XG non-pen. So, if we come to expected, no pen, interestingly, is even. 0.25 for Bruno Fernandes, 0.25 for Bowen. I believe Paqueta is still out injured as well, so Bowen should take on the responsibility of being the penalty taker in the team, so they are kind of even in that sense. And I think I would still go Bruno Fernandes, just because if Man United are going to get a result, he is going to have to do the business, basically. And Bowen, even though I really do like his differential, I think I would chase the upside in Man United. I think the Leicester fixture in isolation is that good that it might outweigh the two that West Ham have. Because I could see West Ham having a stinky game against Everton away this week, for example. Few people saying on my team, the team with Wood in. First option, Matthew saying. Jemima Unicorn saying, average game week score last game week 29 was 12. That is very true. And I suspect this will be the lowest scoring game week this year, so playing safe makes sense. Yeah, Jemima, that is a really interesting point in terms of maybe playing safe and understanding that a bit more longer term is actually the route to go for this week. Just a reminder of like the current landscape of my team. I think really for my team, it's two routes. It's address the issues, and that's going to be Cunha out to Chris Wood. I think, though, the problem is, I do think there are more exciting options than Chris Wood, but he just makes a lot of sense from an ownership perspective. So it would be Cunha out to Chris Wood, and then it would be getting rid of Trent, of course, and trying to sort this out. And Trent out could be anybody. And really, for me, it would be one of... I wouldn't go Kirkes because I've got double Brentford attack. It just doesn't really make sense with the dynamic of my team. And I wouldn't go Aït-Nouri either. I just don't feel that good about Aït-Nouri. So I think by default it would be either Williams, as we discussed, for that game week, and he would come in for Salah. And what it does allow me, as we've mentioned, is then to come into game week 30 and have a real opportunity for this game week to be my 1 week punt as opposed to something else. And it's worth noting, I don't even have to make a transfer, to be honest. Like, the team could easily look like... The team could happily look like that, and I would be perfectly fine with it. I don't feel like that team needs a definite transfer. I would be almost shoehorning a transfer in, and maybe rolling the transfer to allow myself a bit of flexibility in future game weeks would be better, with an eye on probably wildcarding in game week 31 with some of the fixtures that these teams do have. So this is probably the route that I'm considering right now. The only decision then would be, do I go Williams, or do I maybe go for a bit more of an upside pick in Vardial? I think Williams is better this week, but then the following game week, Vardial at home against Leicester does look very, very good. And that would be very tempting in a sense. Let me see, which would you buy for Trent? Vardial, Williams. I probably would go Williams just because he's the cheapest. I don't see a huge difference between them all. And QA Milenkovic header. Or the other option would be Vardial, Williams, Kirkes. But I'm not in love, so I'm going to take Kirkes out of the equation. It's between those two, I think. Vardial or Williams. Vardial, remember, this is a 2-game week move. So I would also get the Leicester game for Vardial as opposed. But it would leave me 1.1 million in the bank. Not as much room to be really dynamic with my transfers. For example, Vissa up to Mateta wouldn't happen. So I wouldn't be able to chase that upside. But equally, I don't think this team needs a transfer. I don't think it needs one. Would you -4 for a keeper, and which keeper? I have Henderson. Well, Wayden, I think Henderson is going to be Henderson's going to be a fantastic long-term option for you because he covers off a lot of the teams. But if you're looking to wildcard in game week 31, then maybe a goalkeeper transfer is worthwhile if you don't own one this week. The problem is I don't think goalkeepers are ever worth a -4, but if you were looking to get rid of Henderson, I'd probably be looking at someone like a Jose Sarr, to be honest with you, or a Kepa. Trent to Nico Williams, Palmer to Gibbs White, Vissa to Haaland for an 8-point hit. Do I like that for an 8-point hit? I don't like anything for an 8-point hit, Jack, but if I was to do one, I think there is upside in those moves, yes. Could I do those moves? Let me have a look. I think I can. I think I can do it for a -4. So you're saying Trent to Nico Williams. Palmer to Gibbs White. And then Cunha up to Haaland. So I'm short of that. That would have been a really interesting move, I think. That would have been very tempting to do that. I think that would have sold me, personally, because the team would look like this. Because I don't like anybody outside of Gibbs White unless, to be honest. Lots of you saying Vardial as opposed to Williams, but we do need to remember Williams' ownership is big. Thoughts on a wildcard game week 30, assistant manager 31 to 33, and free hit 34, then bench boost to 36. Benson, I'm going to be honest, very difficult for me to answer because 1, I don't know your team, and 2, I haven't taken the assistant manager into account too much. Selfishly, it's worth noting because I haven't got it available to myself. What I am going to say, Benson, is if you're in a position where you have your assistant manager chip, like I've said to a few others, I would go over to FPL Harry because he has his still available and he's been doing real deep dives because he's had his own problems about when to use it. So I would recommend going to check his out because he will have a better answer than myself on when to use it. He really is deep in it right now. So I would recommend that. I'm just seeing right now on Twitter to see if there's any sort of news right now. Anything in the world. Don't think so as we speak. I don't think there's much going on. No, I can't see much. No, not much on Twitter right now, just a heads up. If you have one transfer in Bruno or Haaland, if I had one transfer, I would go Haaland because I think the second game week 30 that we're looking at is better than that of Bruno Fernandes's. How long is Trent out for anyone? So we haven't actually got a conclusion right now on Trent, but what it sounds like is like they're basically saying, well, we hope to have Trent before the end of the season. Well, anyone saying but until the end of the season, that doesn't sound great, does it? So that has been my one concern, is that like, oh God, if you're saying till the end of the season, then what the hell? Like, how long could he actually be out for? That's the problem. Julie's saying, keep Salah but take a -4 or sell Salah and have 11 players. Julie, it depends who that that player is that's forcing you to take the -4. Let me know on that one, please. Yeah, let me know on that one. So in terms of my team, one thing, selfishly, I know I put it in my title about getting rid of Mo Salah. I'm going to be honest, it ain't clickbait. I have been actually really deliberating this, and I want to show you what it does for my team. So what it does for my team, and just give me 2 minutes of your time, just 2 minutes of your time, just to hear me out, because I know it sounds crazy. And one thing that we do need to understand is this stuff here. I bought him at 12.7. He's currently 13.7, and I can sell him at 13.2. Now, I do not see his price going down much more at all. So if you sell him, I get 13.2, and I'm inevitably going to want him back. I got to buy him back at 13.7. Not ideal. Now, a few things that we need to consider right now. Firstly, why the hell would we sell Mo Salah? Well, of course, he doesn't play this week, and he opens up avenues for us to spend the money elsewhere, like a certain Erling Haaland. So, 2, captaincy. You can't captain him in game week 29. Game week 30, if you use the money to bring in Erling Haaland, I would argue Leicester at home is probably more of a upside pick than that of Mo Salah at home against Everton. So I think we can very easily make the case that Haaland is as good of a captain, if not better than Salah in game week 30. Game week 31, even if you think Mo Salah is a great captain away against Fulham, let's be honest, that's a tough game. So I don't think that is the standout fixture. I would argue that in game week 31 in isolation, I straight away look to see who has Leicester and Southampton, and that would be Alexander Isak away against Leicester, and obviously Spurs at home against Southampton. So there would be opportunities in the wildcard to go for whatever one you would like. Game week 32, it is going to be on Isak. So currently, the next 4 weeks, we probably have no Salah captain. And game week 33, it's going to be an Erling Haaland captaincy as well, isn't it? I don't see anybody not having Haaland in a double game week in 33. Then in game week 34, I would make the case that Mo Salah would then be back as our captain. But Isak at home against Ipswich is equally a fantastic captain. So I'm not sitting here saying that Mo Salah is a bad option. He is the best option in the history of the game. But captaincy is a big factor that we need to take in. And I do think there is an opportunity to go against Mo Salah's captain over the next few weeks. Now, when we come down to, is there actually any benefit to me selling him? What does selling Mo Salah do that Palmer can't do for my team? Well, it allows me to keep Palmer as a playing player for this week, which is a bonus. So, firstly, can I do Cunha up to Haaland and address the Cunha situation as sacrificing Mo Salah? Well, if I was to get rid of Mo Salah alongside Trent, because that would be the combination, I'm going to be honest. Haaland would come in for Isak, Mikalenko would come in for Munoz, and Mo Salah would have to go out for somebody at 5.7 million. Nobody at 5.7 or below is worth it in my eyes. However, if we were then to use Trent as a bit of a cash cow, and let's go all the way down to Williams, because if I bring in Haaland, I feel like I got the good stuff at Man City. I don't think I need Gvardiol on top of that. Williams then comes in, and I got to free up 4.7 million. Now, 8.5 million. What does that actually open the door for? Well, it opens the door for a certain Bruno Fernandes in game week 29. Now, I think Bruno Fernandes is terrible for game week 30. I really do not like him for game week 30 at all. And when we take a look, so look, that'll be the team for game week 29 as a -4. I know it hasn't got Mo Salah, but we got Erling Haaland captain. We've kept Alexander Isak for game week 30 at home against Brentford. And we still got Cole Palmer. Then we come into game week 30. The back three would kind of pick itself. Nico Williams at home against Man United. Wouldn't be surprised if that was a clean sheet. Gabriel at home against Fulham. Munoz away against Southampton. Isak would come in for Vissa, 100%. But Bruno Fernandes would not be an ideal person to have in that team, would it? But away against Forest, could he do something? He could. So the team would look like that, captaincy on Erling Haaland, and then in game week 31 would be then where I would deem it possibly necessary to bring in Mo Salah once again on a game week 31 free hit. Yes, I would be sacrificing a lot of value, and not having Mo Salah for 2 weeks and then buying back at 0.6 million more just doesn't make a lot of sense. But I do think there is some upside in it. Let me know in the chat, guys. Have I lost my mind? If you are watching that and you just heard that little bit of an explanation, let me know in the chat. Do you like that strategy of doing Trent to Nico Williams, Salah to Bruno Fernandes, and the first comment is Scott. Selling Salah before Palmer is madness. And yes, Scott, I would agree on that one, my friend. I would agree on that one. But let me know, guys. Let me know what your thoughts. Is there anybody who likes those moves? Anybody in the world? I do agree. If I think Salah is worth buying back, and he is, isn't he, really? Like the fixtures for Mo Salah. Let's just look at these fixtures coming up. I mean, what world do I not want Mo Salah over those 3 games? West Ham at home, Leicester away. Yeah, I think everyone's saying the same thing. Get rid of Palmer before Salah, and I do agree on that one. And Bruno Fernandes, I just don't feel good about. I feel content not having him. Now, Jemima's put interest when Nacho, if you move Nico Williams to Cresswell Agbadou, so let's go to the Wolves man Agbadou because he is back in, and I've been told that if he doesn't play for Wolves, then the manager's lost his mind because he is their best defender, effectively. So that would be Agbadou in. Then, of course, we will be doing... Did I say to bring out Cunha for Haaland? And I'll need to free up 4.3 million, which would allow me to go to a certain Gibbs White at exactly the same price. If we deem Gibbs White, basically, I would get him in because I would be trying to cover Chris Wood. That is the only reason I'll be buying in Gibbs White. I'm going to be honest and just hope that he can do something. And the team would look like this. Now... does it look as good as Williams or Kirkes or that? No. And it would be for a -4, but it does bring in Erling Haaland. It keeps Mo Salah. It keeps Isak. And then in game week 30, how would my team look? Well, Isak would come in for Vandenberg. Salah would come in for Dafby Visser. And Munoz would come in for Mikalenko. And I would have to play Agbadou at home against West Ham. It's not terrible, but it's not an ideal spot to be in, is it? But what does that allow me to do? It allows me to get rid of Palmer, and also bring in Gibbs White for the next 2. Now, it doesn't cover the West Ham defence, which is not ideal, and it doesn't allow me to bring in Vardial, which is also not ideal, but it does get me through the next few weeks. And it sounds like he's a guaranteed starter. But do we think Gibbs White is significantly better than that of Elanga? Now, this comes down to another shout. Hopefully, this does provide a bit of value to you guys. And again, Jemima, thank you for that recommendation there. Let's get up the Nottingham Forest midfielders, because this will be really interesting. I haven't actually looked at this, and I'm really interested to see who is the best. So let's get up Elanga, Gibbs White, and Hudson-Odoi, because that's all we're looking at, really, isn't it? So per 90 minutes, XG per 90, we have got Elanga at 0.25, Gibbs White at 0.19, Hudson-Odoi at 0.15. And then we have got expected assists, Gibbs White slightly ahead, Elanga at 0.2, Hudson-Odoi at 0.12. So in terms of underlying numbers, we would suggest that Gibbs White is actually slightly below Elanga. When we take a look at non-pen XG, I don't think that takes any consideration because, of course, Chris Wood is the penalty taker in that one. And then bonus points is where Gibbs White is kind of in his own element. Once he delivers, basically. So could we also have maybe that thing where he didn't get selected for England, so we got that kind of angry Gibbs White where he might bag a few and kind of put 2 fingers up to Tuchel? Possibly that's a narrative I'm happy to paint pictures in my head for. So Gibbs White looks good. Shots per 90 is in Gibbs White's favour also. Elanga, I don't love Elanga as a pick. It's worth noting. I think he's good, but I always look at him and think, I find it very difficult to predict your points. Now, is that just what I love is saying things like that and then proving myself wrong? Let's take a look if there is actually any logic to that. So, Gibbs White assists. So we got return, 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 return. So we'd probably say every other game we're getting a return from Gibbs White pretty consistently, especially over the second half of this season, because he has been a little bit injury hit over this period. So we kind of got to give him a little bit of credit here. Now let's take into account Hudson-Odoi. 10, 8, pretty ropey, but also very injury prone. I wouldn't be surprised if he did just get injured. He's never been on my radar, Hudson-Odoi. So the other consideration is going to be Elanga, of course. And in that spot, is he anywhere on this list? Why is Elanga not on any of these attacking returns? This is probably evidence right now as why I'm not looking to buy Elanga. Why? I should probably just search for him, to be honest with you. Here we go. Salah. Return. Really nice patch here, actually. But since game week 22, he's had one attack and return, and he's been very consistent with his minutes. So, it's Gibbs White or nobody for me. It really is Gibbs White or nobody in that Nottingham Forest team. Treble saying, Marmoush is the man this week, and I'm captaining him. I am biased as a City season ticket holder, though. Treble, you're a season ticket holder. If you're lying, then obviously that is a bit of a pointless lie. So please, for the chat right now, if you are a season ticket holder, are you, firstly, Treble, are you going to the game today? Secondly, are people going mad buying Haaland? Let me know in the chat, Treble, if you're still there and you're a season ticket holder and you're watching them week in, week out. This is the sort of information that we need. And this is why the community is great, because I have an opinion on Haaland. I think he's good, but I'm super interested by, if you are a season ticket holder, my friend, just a few lines on, do you think Erling Haaland is showing anything right now to suggest we should all be buying him in our FPL teams? Alpha saying class is permanent. Salah is undisputed the best player right now. Agree. It probably would be stupid. I mean, has Salah been consistent with his returns? Oh wait, he has literally delivered every game week. I mean, what madman. I mean, he is overperforming here, it's worth noting, but it's crazy, isn't it? It is crazy to get rid of him. Dango and Vissa to Elanga and Evan Nielsen for a -4. I don't love it. I don't love it for a -4. Salah to Bruno, Castagna on bench, or Palmer to Semenyo to fund. I would rather you, based on what we've been discussing, keep Salah and do Palmer to Semenyo. But if you are locked in on Haaland, then yes, I do think Palmer to Semenyo probably is the route I'd go for as opposed to Salah. James, take a -4 to bring in Wood, Evan Nielsen, or start Wanyeri. Or who are you selling for the -4, James? Let me know. Is Nico Williams nailed starter? Lucas is saying, yeah, he is. I had this question to myself, actually, because I've been recommending Aina a lot. And when we look at the price point for all of the Forest defenders right now, we can see, if we filter it by price, so Aina's 5.4, but Milenkovic is 4.9. I thought he was a lot less than that. Murillo at 4.7, and then we have got Nico Williams at 4.4. So I think there is enough price difference to justify Williams, and his game time has been fantastic. Literally played all the games, and there's no reason to suggest he won't be playing, basically. Trouble saying, yes, I'm going, but no, I wouldn't break my team to get him at the price. I would love nothing more than him to prove me wrong today, though. Treble, I hope you're wrong, because I don't know if I'm going to be buying him. So, no, obviously, I hope you have a great day today, mate. Watching that game. It's going to be a good game, really good game. It would be really nice, actually, Treble, if you are... We're going to have a break, obviously, with the international break, but if you tune into a future live stream off the back of the Brighton game, just to give us maybe a little bit of a review on what your thoughts are, be really interested. Actually, when's game week 30 deadline? The 1st of April, yes, so it's miles away, yeah. So, yeah, it'd be interesting for you to jump on a stream later and let us know what your thoughts were on Brighton, because I think they're quite an exciting team. Do Wood Haaland isn't worth the money and hit. And yeah, I probably would agree. I do think Haaland probably is one of those where maybe we are hyping it up in my head more than that. Have 10 players for a -4 with Bruno in, or keep Dango for 11. I probably would just keep Dango for 11 and hope for the best. Son, Odegaard, or Mbeumo. For this 1 week in isolation, I think Odegaard could be quite a tasty one, but it probably would be Mbeumo because he's on penalties. Palmer plus Visser to Haaland and Elanga for a -4 if I don't captain Haaland game week 30. Palmer and Visser to Haaland and Elanga for a -4 as well. I just don't love it. I don't love it for a -4 that much. Do Wood, don't do Haaland. He isn't worth the price and the hit. I am in that boat right now. I am in that opinion. Yeah, I feel like I should get my team locked in. I do think I need to get my team locked in. The only one that I do believe justifies the Haaland move for my own personal team is the one that Jemima recommended, which is one like this. Gibbs White. It's that. That's the -4 that kind of makes some sense. That's the one that I'm like, ooh, like I can kind of see the upside in that. I mean, like it does Trent to Agbadu, Cunha to Haaland, Palmer to Gibbs White for a -4. Gets me 11 players with the assumption that Vandenberg does get integrated back into the team, which sounded quite promising from Thomas Frank. I think there could be a chance this is my team because I don't love a lot of the defenders. The other one, of course, as we discussed, is literally just doing Cunha to Christopher Wood. Comes in for Isak. And then we do Trent out for something like Vardial or Williams. And we do something like that. And I think the only reason I would go Vardial is because I'll just be like, the only reason I'll do Vardial is the fact that I would be like, but I've got some Man City for the Leicester game. And I think that is what would tempt me to do that. Because then when we get to game week 30, we have got him for the Leicester game. That comes in for that. That comes in for Visser. Salah comes in for Mikalenko. And the team look at that with 1.1 million in the bank. I just think this makes more sense doing this than the Haaland move and taking a -4. I then get to game week 30 with, like, who do I prefer for game week 30? Palmer or Gibbs White? Palmer. Do I prefer Bruno Fernandes or Palmer? Palmer. Nico Jackson could be back by then, so the game becomes even more interesting for Palmer. Isak, I think, still great for that home game against Brentford. I've got Chris Wood as coverage, and I got 1.1 million in the bank that once we get to this game week, I might not have the avenue to get to a Mateta, unfortunately, with Vardial, but I do have the opportunity to maybe go down to somebody like a Evan Nielsen, and I go triple, for example, and I go Evan Nielsen in, and if I say to myself, I really want to lean in on this Bournemouth attack, I could, if I really felt brave, do something like that. If we felt Newcastle were going to be back full strength, team could look like this with that transfer if I really wanted to force it in. And that looks really good for game week 30 as well. It's just whether I want to restrict myself to not having the opportunity to buy Mateta away against Southampton, because that does feel like a really good fixture. It does feel like a really good fixture. It gets rid of Trent. It gets me a good defender for 30. I just need to ask myself quickly, I just need to ask myself right now, apologies guys, a little bit selfish right now, if I was to go down to Williams, actually let's go for Milenkovic right now. I want to go a little bit higher. If I went to Milenkovic and I'd done Cunha to Wood, how would that look? Again, we're taking a risk on Vandenberg starting this week, but I'll be taking a risk on Vandenberg in all these situations. And if I take a -4 and then I roll like 10 players, that's a really bad spot to be in. So this would allow me 2.2 million in the bank. But then I really would be kind of saying to myself, Nacho, get Mateta in this case, because you've kind of bought Milenkovic with the premise of giving yourself the funds to do so. But I don't know who I'd bench out of that. But I feel like having at least the opportunity to bring in Mateta for the Southampton game, and maybe taking a punt on benching in Mbeumo and having Mateta for this game week would be a really exciting prospect for my team. Yes, it doesn't have Erling Haaland, but a front three of Isak, Mateta and Wood, I think is great as well. I think that's a really good front three. I've got the double Bournemouth in Semenyo and Kluivert. I'd avoid Evan Nielsen probably and just say to myself, I've got 2 Bournemouth. Let's spread it a little bit and go for Mateta in that game where Palace have been so good away from home and Southampton have been so bad at home. I think that's probably where I'm leaning right now, is something along these lines. I think that is what I am kind of, I think I'm okay not going Haaland. I think I might be stressed, but I think the problem is with Erling Haaland is, of course, when a lot of people are going there for Erling Haaland, you do feel like you are missing out, but sometimes it just is what it is. And I don't have fantastic team value, so trying to get to Erling Haaland, of course, is quite difficult. So I think in my spot, going for a Haaland does really hurt my team. So that feels good. Getting to game week 30 with this team, I feel pretty content. Doesn't have Vardy at home against Leicester, so be it, but it does have a good team regardless. And maybe Williams is a bit more of a pick than Milenkovic, just in general. Probably would go for that. Just go real cheap with Williams. Playing something like that. Yeah. I think I'm kind of locked in on this, guys. Kind of going Williams or Milenkovic. I think both do a job. Milenkovic offers a lot of attacking potential, and going like this. This would be. So who are the strikers this week? Well, the strikers this week for my team would be kind of would be that Wood and Visser. Wouldn't have Evan Nielsen, but I don't feel like I need him because I've got double Bournemouth attack, and I don't have Erling Haaland, of course, which is a slight problem. But I think this is probably the route, and allowing myself at least the opportunity to bring in Mateta for game week 30 with that fantastic fixture away against Southampton, and in preparation for their double in game week 32, which is not great, but you're still probably going to have Mateta in those games, aren't you? Bruno Wood captaincy, I think I would go Bruno. Obviously with my team, I would have to go for Chris Wood as my captain, and it would look something like this. Milenkovic more safe. I think they're both pretty safe, to be honest with you. I think they're both pretty damn safe. Let me just get the team up a minute. That's the sorry, I'm like a baby and we're tired. So Forest here. Milenkovic literally plays every minute, And again, is he offering much going forward? He has his moments. He's just a big unit, isn't he? Williams, on the other hand, you know, he has some bits. Like, he does some bits. Am I expecting a lot from Nico? Probably not. I think the big question is who picks up all the bonus? Who is getting the bonus points? 5 for Nico Williams. Milenkovic has only picked up 1 bonus point. That could be a bit of a game changer there in that sense. Who scored more goals? Goals scored. 3 for Milenkovic, 1 for Nico Williams. And obviously in terms of assists, we've got 1 for Nico Williams and we've got 1 for Milenkovic. So basically, it sounds like they're very similar. And 0.5 million cheaper kind of makes sense to go Nico Williams as opposed to the other. Probably is the way we're looking. Just seeing right now if there's anything on Twitter. Apologies, guys. Is there anything here? No, I don't think there is. No, I can't see much. Murillo, is he an option? I doubt it. Do transfer on stream. I am tempted. I am tempted just to get it done, to be honest. It's causing too much stress, these moves. Guys, who would you go for? Defender, Nottingham Forest defender. I think that probably makes more sense than Vardiel. Because I do want the opportunity to bring in, as I've mentioned. I mean, it's all, there's no, I'm not going to put a poll. You don't need to poll who to buy a Forest defender, basically. It's just pointless, isn't it? Absolutely pointless. So it feels like this is going to be a very boring week for me. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the upside is Bruno Fernandes and Erling Haaland. Unfortunately, I'm not going to do that. I can do it by doing the Salah move out. Do I think Salah is worth it to bring in Bruno Fernandes? Personally, I do not think so. So then we come down to a few things. We could do the very obvious move of doing Cunha out, Wood in, and then selling Trent to go to somebody like a Williams. And I think that's the route we're going for. We could go for Vardiel, but it does have a slight impact on game week 30 and whether I deem, you know, somebody like a Mateta really important to buy. And I feel like I want to have the option to go there as opposed to not. Otherwise, the only other upside chase is getting rid of Isak. And this is the one, guys, that, to be honest with you, has really been capturing my attention. To Evan Nielsen. And then selling, no, sorry, not that one. Selling Cole Palmer and bringing in Gibbs White. Nico Williams may get benched against Man United. Matthew, you might have to expand on that one, why that might be the case. If you just drop it in there, that'd be great to see. Remember, I'm wildcarding, so if there is any risk, I won't take Nico Williams. But Scott, maybe go a bit more detail on that one. That'd be good to see. There's no difference for me. Both allow me to get Mateta, I'm pretty sure. Let me just get it up. Both, I think, allow me to pick up Mateta. Yeah, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Guys, this is the only one that really is tickling my fancy a little bit, is taking a -4 and doing Isak to Haaland. And I'll put it up on the team thing actually in a minute. This is the final one, guys, that really is interesting. And then we're gonna make the transfers. Is avoiding Trent for now. Just accepting it is what it is. Playing a back three, because I just don't think the defenders are fantastic this week at all. Doing Isak out to Haaland, Cunha out to Evan Nielsen, no Chris Wood, by the way, which could be very devastating, and then selling Cole Palmer and bringing in Gibbs White. Remember, this is only for 2 weeks because then I will be wildcarding. So the team would look like this for game week 29, which is great. I think it looks good, but it is a -4, and we'd have Erling Haaland as captain. No Chris Wood, though, which is a slight problem. And then in game week 30, we would have Mo Salah come in for Vissa, Munoz come in for Mikalenko, probably Vandenberg. And then we'd have one free transfer to address the defensive situation. So we probably would then do the upside of that to Vardial. And it would look like that. I think the Mateta one is probably a bit more exciting. And I just think I've got to accept that if Haaland does the business, he does the business. It just is what it is. I think it's causing more issues than it's worth for my team. Do I think Vardial is worth the upside is the big question right now. What's Vardial's numbers? Last thing, guys, before we wrap it up. And please pop any questions in the chat. I'll be sure to get to them. Let's get all teams up a minute. Let's get rid of this. Who are we looking at right now? We're looking at... Let's get rid of players who don't play football. Vardial, we're looking at Nico Williams, we're looking at Milenkovic, we're looking at Aït-Nouri, and we're looking at... Guys, throw me some defenders who need to be on this list a minute. Throw me up some defenders that you think need to be on this list for comparison. We've got Vardial. These are all the options that we could be looking to buy. Vardial, Nico Williams, Milenkovic, Aït-Nouri, Kirkes. I'll give you guys like 30 seconds just to drop another suggestion in the chat. So I got really itchy nose. If there is any player that you think is missing, and then we will get into it. Now, of course, the big thing here is shots. Nico Williams leads the way, Vardial second. XG per 90, Vardial 0.15, 0.07 expected assists. He is the best of the bunch, and he does just crop up in ridiculous areas, doesn't he? Nico Williams there, 0.12 XG, 0.06. And then we got Milenkovic at 0.12, obviously just a beast from set pieces. And then we got Aït-Nouri doing the business. Kirkes I really do like, but doesn't work for my team. Doesn't work for my team personally. I just don't love him with my double Brentford attack for this game week. So yeah, that's how we're looking right now. I am scared not to have Haaland, but I think I just got to accept it. I think we just got to accept it. Okay. But no Haaland against Leicester is a scary, scary prospect. But I think it is what it is. Okay, Matthew, that's a really good point. Do I think it impacts it? Probably not. But it's enough for me to go Milenkovic. I am to make that move. Okay, I think we better get this team locked in. Let's get it locked in. Let me just double check one last route of Haaland. So this would be Cunha to Haaland, Isak to Evan Nielsen, Palmer to Gibbs White. Haaland will captain Haaland every day of the week. This team does excite me. I do like this team. I do like this team. And then in game week 30, we just bring in Vardial for the Leicester game. The one that we all want him for. We don't want him for game week 29. And I get to keep Salah. I get rid of Palmer. Is what it is. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. This is the final decision. This is the final decision. I can't decide. Cunha out to Haaland, Isak out to Evan Nielsen, Palmer out to Gibbs White. Game week 30, Evan Nielsen at home against Ipswich, Haaland at home against Leicester. Big guns in midfield. Who am I missing? Palmer. I don't get Mateta, but I get Vardiel at home against Leicester. And I don't have Chris Wood. So I have to avoid Chris Wood for the next 2 weeks. But the upside of Haaland is very exciting for that Leicester game, isn't it? And of course, it is for a -4. It is for a -4, this team here as well. So that's not ideal. That's not ideal. What is Evan Nielsen's numbers like? What are Evan Nielsen's numbers like? XG 0.46, expected assists 0.11, total shots 2.82. It is very, very much in the Bournemouth camp if I were to go there, which is a little bit scary prospect. All right, let's get this team locked in. I think we got to do it. I think we got to get it done because I do need to wrap up. Guys, as you can see, I'm very, very torn between what direction to go in with this team. I really don't feel like I'm going to have a good team this week, regardless of what direction I go in, which is a little bit infuriating. So, yeah. Are you sure that Utara plays, I guess? No, I'm not sure Utara plays at all. Yeah, I think Haaland's going to be avoided for me, I think, which is a bit stressful to say the least. Just need to see if there's anything else out there, but I don't think there is. Should I make a... I'm making this more stressful than it's worthwhile, I think. I think Evan Nielsen starts, yeah. I would be very surprised if Evan Nielsen doesn't start. I feel like there's more upside in Vardiel, but I don't see them keeping a clean sheet this week. So I think we go for Forest defender. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Let me just check one last section. One last bit. You can see the stress, guys. You can see the stress. I'm not a good manager of sorting things early. I let the week run and then I go from there. Last one is Agbadu, Salah to Haaland. Sorry, that to Haaland, and then that to Gibbs White. No Chris Wood, no Palmer, and I literally just get Haaland. Nah, that's not worth it. That ain't worth it at all. There's no upside in that move. That just doesn't bring any value, I don't think. Savinho, too much of a punt on a wild card myself. I think you might get like a fantastic week from him. I don't think you get consistent weeks. I think that'd be my only worry. Okay, let's get this team locked in, guys. I think I'm going for the Chris Wood option. Very boring, but I think it's logical for my team long term. So, Chris Wood in for Cunha and Trent out for Milenkovic. Hopefully he gets a bullet header. And I think this is the move. captaincy on Chris Wood. Jesus. Look at the goal involvement. It's awful. I don't like Chris Wood. I've enjoyed not having him. But one shot, one goal, basically, with him. That's how he runs. Look at these numbers. They're awful. They really are awful. He's got 11.8 XG and he's got 18 goals. That speaks for itself. -4 for Gibbs White or Bruno to remove power. If you're wildcarded in the game week 30, it's got to be Bruno Fernandes for me. Matthew, I think they are good moves, but I think they're boring moves. They're not exciting moves, are they, at all? But it would get me Mateta in game week 30, which I do think is an interesting prospect because he is fantastic. I just don't know if Chris Wood's got it in him. But I think the -4 is important to note. Do I want Haaland? How much do I want Haaland against Leicester? How much do I want Haaland against Leicester? I do want him. But I think I'm going to have to sacrifice. Trent out, Milenkovic in. Cunha out, Wood in. Hoo-wee, guys. Hoo-wee. I haven't done it. I haven't. Something in my body is telling me not to do it. Something in my body is saying to me, Nacho, don't pull the trigger. Get Haaland in. Oh, God. Goodness me. Goodness me. Something in my body is saying, Nacho, this is your moment. Because it feels like a huge week. It feels like a huge week. Something in my body is saying, Nacho, one last try at something. One last try, which could be something like, are the gods telling me something here? Isak to Haaland. Isak to Haaland. I'm trying to like summon like the FPL gods. Like each click here just like convinces me a move. Palmer to Gibbs White and Trent to Vardial, maybe. Trent to Vardial and then the week after something. Trent to Milenkovic. Start. I'm just trying to convince myself these are good moves. 1.3 in the bank to then do Cunha. Sorry, I'm just talking to myself. And then do Cunha out. Mateta in. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Guys, Trent out, Milenkovic in. Isak out, Haaland in. Palmer out, Gibbs White in. Okay. Okay, so that's good. Haaland in, remember. Captain, El Capitano, no Chris Wood. Okay. No Chris Wood. Game week 30. Game week 30. Cunha out. Mateta in. Vissa bench. Starting Buemo. Still got Milenkovic. Got Haaland. Don't really care about Vardial. Guys, is that the move? Guys, can you just let me know in the chat? What are your thoughts on this right now? Let me try and get 2 tabs up a second, okay? Let me try and get 2 tabs. Let me put this one up. Holy moly. Is that the one? Is that the one? Hang on. Getting a bit stressed here, guys. Whew. Because I just love the idea of taking on Chris Wood again, but it's quite scary, obviously. So, guys, if you're still watching this and you're not stressed from my own stress, we got two options, okay? We got this one, which is Trent out to Milenkovic, Cunha out to Chris Wood. Done. Wood captain, cover everything, cover the big dog in Chris Wood. Get to keep Isak, which is great. Rest of the team stays the same. Get to keep Cole Palmer, okay? So I'll leave that here for you guys. This one is, let me just expand it so you can see. Here. Goodness me. This one would be Trent out to Milenkovic, same move. Isak out to Haaland, and then Palmer out to Gibbs-White. Then, in game week 30, we'd avoid Chris Wood once again, and we would sell Cunha and bring in Mateta for Southampton away. I bench Visser. I get to keep Mbeumo because I don't feel like I wanted to start him. Who don't I have? Chris Wood. Who could decimate me this week? Chris Wood. But if I buy, people who are buying Chris Wood and not captaining him are actually negatively being affected by any returns that he has. If Gibbs-White can just deliver the goods on the field in this game, guys, can you just do me a favour? This is Team A. This is Team A. This is Team B. This isn't a hit. The other one is a hit. Remember that. That's really, really important to note. Okay. Which do you prefer? Okay. This is A. A is basically no Haaland. B is the Haaland route. What the heck? B, Haaland. Guys, I'm putting a poll in as we speak. Here we go. So, A is the Chris Wood team, no Haaland. B is this team, which you can see the moves in the top right. Okay, so A is no Haaland, Team A. This is Team A. No hit. Remember, this is no hit. That's a big factor that we need to remember. Team B is here. No Chris Wood. This is Team B. But I get Haaland. Don't have Isak, but I get Mateta as an alternative to Isak in game week 30 away against Southampton. Something, again, interesting of note. Wow. Wood could destroy me. That sounds terrible. It could. But this one excites me. I haven't got Palmer, which is a slight issue. I haven't got Palmer. And could Palmer step up 100%? Could Palmer step up? He definitely could. And that is a slight concern. It's basically how much do I think Haaland's worth it? Because this team here, I get rid of Isak and I get rid of Palmer, which are big players. Big players. Justin, I would wildcard Isak in, so that isn't a problem at all. I'm wildcarding in 31. Whereas this one allows me to... keep Cole Palmer, but he's not going to hurt me this week against Arsenal. He really isn't going to hurt me. I don't see that happening. Just seeing what's going on here. Risking ownership on Palmer, I agree. It is a risk going back Palmer, especially against Spurs in game week 30, which is a good fixture. And maybe I need to convince myself that Palmer is actually worth it. But Haaland is just exciting, isn't it? Trent to Milenkovic, Cunha to Wood, or Trent to Milenkovic, Isak to Haaland, Palmer to Gibbs-White. Is that too far? Is that too far? Oh, I think it is. I think it is. Oh, I think I'm going to lock in this one. I think I'm going to lock in the no Haaland one. Late John is still dithering debating. 100%, that is correct. Guys. Guys. It's done. It's done. It's done. I'm trying to be logical. Done. I'm going to have to wrap it up now. Gonna have to do it. We're going to have to wrap it up because I can't stress about this anymore. So we're going to wrap it up. That's how we're looking. I just feel like it's harder to predict the Man City goals with Haaland now that they've got Marmoush. I just think it's a different Man City team right now. I think that's it. I just don't know if Haaland's going to do it with Marmoush and Foden, and I don't know. But it's done. Right, I'm going to have to wrap up. I got to go football because I'm so late. Have a good one. As you can see, this is going to be a problem this week. We're in problem territory. But we're going Chris Wood captain. We're going to hope that he delivers against Ipswich. And we're going to wrap it up there. Have an amazing game week, guys. Take care. Thank you for sticking around with my dithering on stream. But we're going to wrap it up. Have an amazing day, guys. Take care. Hope your game week's great. I hope Haaland delivers for those that bought him. Obviously, it will hurt me, but I do hope that it will be it'll be beneficial for you guys. Sander, Haaland 2 goals. Don't you dare. Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Have a great one. I'll see you real soon. Let's hope Vandenberg plays. Cheers, guys. Take care.